Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. It's 11:03. You all received a copy of the minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the meeting minutes. But yeah, the last
I'll
meeting.
second it.
Thanks, Pat. Thanks, Pat. And thanks,
Having like a
Louise, for
deja vu.
providing the minutes. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Public speak. Is there anyone out there, Brendan, that would like to speak?
No, I don't see anybody. Nope.
Perfect. So let's go over the financials.
Yeah, so this expense control report obviously doesn't have any payroll or deductions made. We're just in the beginning of the new fiscal year, so everything's at 100%, which I think is a good time for a new director to come into place. They're not dealing with end of the fiscal year nonsense, and so this is, the new person who's coming in my place will have a brand new, budget to be working with here. Minus the 2.5%, obviously, but again, that's been accounted for. But you'll see there's no deductions yet. Next month's expense control report will reflect payroll and some of the other purchase of services that will be paid for. But yeah, everything's good on our end here, unless you guys have any questions about the FY22 budget.
Any questions on the financial report or the budget?
Negative.
Great.
No.
No.
No,
Good. Thanks. All good. I don't remember, Brendan, if we actually vote to approve. I don't think we do, but. So Highland Valley, Pat, anything to report? Probably a pretty.
We're on our summer break, which I didn't realize they had, but I have summer break for for board meetings, so nothing to report.
Okay, great. Okay, senior tax work-off. Either Brendan, Joe, anybody want to update the committee? Council?
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
No, I'll defer to you, Brendan. You're the one with the least amount of time left.
Yeah. All right. So there have been 4 people so far that have been selected, and their information has been sent over to personnel. And as far as I know, each one of these applicants was contacted by Emily's office directly. So their stuff is getting processed now, and they should be squared away for placement next week.
Nice.
So that's 4 people placed. And then I've had 3 additional applications come in that I'm still waiting to get financial eligibility on. And then another 2 who were deemed eligible, but oddly enough, are both in the hospital. So I'm waiting to hear back from them. I'm not sure if I'll be able to interview them before I leave. I certainly hope so. But we at least can place 4. So that's just shy of half of those positions being filled. I'm hoping to get, like I said, a couple more in before I leave on August 6th. But the process has been actually pretty smooth. Louise just came in. Hello, Louise. But yeah, so typically the way I've been doing it, and I've had an application checklist for the new director, so when they come in, they can kind of get an understanding as to where each applicant is at. But more or less, once I get those applications, I do the reference checks. It then goes off to our finance director where they check the property taxes to make sure they're current. Also just check eligibility based on tax info that was sent over. Then it bounces back to me. We do the interview, and if the interview goes well, it goes over to HR. So it's kind of that order, and that's how I've set up that application checklist. So each one of those applicants will have that if they've been, we've started the process, they'll have that application checklist for someone to be able to refer to and understand where that applicant is at in the process. So, but everything's been smooth. The financial, eligibility piece usually comes back to me within a day. Mm-hmm. So I don't have any lag time there. Personnel, the second I sent out information to them last week about the 4 that we are certainly going to be selecting for the program. They've been contacted this week, and most of their stuff, like I said, should be done by the end of this week. And then we could probably have them placed sometime next week or maybe the week after. But
Great.
Great. Joe, anything you want to add?
No, I mean, I think Brendan's covered all the bases quite well. Just one brief observation. Say again.
Go ahead. That was something else in the background, I think.
No, the one brief observation is that the balance of jobs, we seem to have a lot of people who would prefer to work inside, and we have a number of jobs that are outside jobs. So I'm hoping that among the two people in the hospital, we can recruit at least one of them for an outside job.
Yeah, I would just add that Joe and I have had the pleasure of interviewing these folks with Brendan, and we've got some real quality applicants here who are got some strong backgrounds. They have a history of volunteering, so they know what's in it. And ironically, I've said to a couple of them that now you're going to get paid in a sense for volunteering. So, but again, it's real quality candidates coming forward, and I think we're in a great place for this program to kick off and to be very, very successful. Brendan, are we on for 1 and 1:30 today for 2 more interviews?
Yep, we are. Yep.
Okay, great.
Can I ask which positions were filled, or is that something you want to not?
Yeah, I think for sure one of the candidates we're going to probably place here at the COA receptionist area.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to go back and revisit some of our interview questions, but I think we'll probably find placement for the HR position too, which is a lot of record retention stuff that they want to have done over there that they just haven't been able to keep up with. But yeah, so the 2 other positions, I'm certainly going to have to go back and just review our interview questions to see. But yeah, at least 2 for sure. We know where they're going to be placed.
But I think Pat and Brendan, jump in, please. But I think the departments that came forward with a position were Council on Aging, Police, Park and Rec, School Department, and I believe maybe City Clerk. Not sure about this.
City Clerk wasn't it, but the Manhan Trail.
Manhan Trail.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, great.
And so to go back to Joe's point, the Manhan Rail Trail and Park and Rec is clearly outside work. So if anyone knows of any able-bodied seniors that are looking for help with their taxes that could work outside, I told Joe and Brendan jokingly that it probably didn't help that we interviewed these folks on a 95-degree humid day. No one said they wanted to work outdoors. But if anybody on the board knows of anybody, please encourage them to come forward to look at some of these positions.
The application that I was telling you guys about, there's someone in particular that I feel wants to do a lot of hands-on type work.
Yes.
That application just came to my office within the last few days. So,
Okay.
yeah. I think that person mainly wants to be working out outdoors or doing handyman type stuff.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, Brendan, old business.
Yeah. So last meeting we talked about the survey, and I had kind of drafted something up, and then I had Joe take a look at it, and he helped me kind of edit some of this stuff out. But so we have a reopening plan, and I know people had their concerns, and we're on this trajectory with opening up, and with the lag between the newsletter and some other communications, we knew we couldn't pull a fast one last second. So my thought is that these surveys will be made available online as we had discussed. They'll also be here at the center for participants when they start coming in through the doors in August, and they can leave them in a little drop box that we'll have located here right on the main floor so that we can get this feedback. And so, I'm hoping that by the end of August, if there are a lot of concerns and people want to see a change in direction, then hopefully this survey will be able to help guide the new director and staff here with, creating maybe modifications of the reopening plan. But just for the timing purposes, I wanted people to kind of feel it out, see what the reopening plan is going to do. Because again, the timing of it between, I sent out the reopening plan for July to give enough people a heads up, and the July newsletter came out weeks ago. So it's one of those things where I had to be mindful of not switching things drastically right before people come in through the doors, just for communication purposes. But this will serve as at least a baseline for the new director and staff to kind of figure out what are the next steps, and if changes need to be made, then we'll try to use this as our guiding tool to making those modifications. So I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at it, but it's something that I feel covers most of the concerns that I think Stan and Louise had talked about at a previous meeting, addressing the questions about the face mask, and some other areas that I know. But I don't know if there's anything that people had to contribute to that, or if they felt there wasn't something in there that was addressed that should be.
I think it looks good.
Yeah.
All right, let me skip down here. And
I
then
think a little bit of the scary thing, Brendan, right now is this, as reported, I believe, by the mayor yesterday, that there were 5 new cases in Easthampton, and 4 of them were fully vaccinated folks.
Yep.
I think we have to remind ourselves and the world that, for years and years and years, when people got flu shots, they still got the flu.
Right.
The theory is that you didn't get it quite as bad as you would have if you didn't have it. And I'm assuming that's the same with the 4 folks. In fact, I believe they're actually asymptomatic. But the point is, having the vaccine doesn't mean you won't get the virus. It means you won't get it as bad.
Right.
yeah, and who knows, I know that there are clusters, with this new variant, and there's some places that are getting out of control with the new variant. Hopefully, I'm hoping that, when the new director comes in, that we're not going to have to face another lockdown, but, I think time will tell. But I feel like overall, the population that we directly served, we had a pretty high volume for vaccinations or vaccination registration. So I feel like we had a great response there. So.
Yep. Okay, new business.
All right. So right after our last board meeting, there was an incident in which one of our vans was totaled. I can reassure everybody that there was no one on the van other than the driver. No one else was involved. Another vehicle, there was another vehicle, but there was no one inside that vehicle. So luckily, considering all of the events that kind of unfolded that day, and I can't get into them, I've been asked by personnel because a lot of this kind of gets into private information. But anyway, one of our mobility assistant program vehicles was destroyed in that accident. Well, I shouldn't say destroyed because we're still waiting for it to get appraised. And I think that's going to be happening in the next week. But our head mechanic here for the highway department took a look at it, and he instantly thought that it was totaled. So this is a E350 that's wheelchair accessible. So this is a major deficit for our department. While we're still waiting for all the insurance information to go through, ultimately, I think from what it sounds like is if there's anything that, is to be pulled from this with insurance, it's most likely going to go, because this was a lease through the PBTA, it's most likely going to have to go through PBTA, and anything that's going to come out of that is going to go directly to the PBTA. So over the last few weeks, I've been working really closely with the PBTA to see if there are any other alternatives. So the program that the van that just was recently totaled was under, like I said, it's a DOT grant that essentially PBTA monitors and kind of keeps close track of for the DOT. Unfortunately, the grant cycle or the grant application process starts in May. And of course, in May, we were fully equipped and had just the right amount of vehicles for our fleet. So I never put in for that DOT grant. So I'm in the process of, trying to work with the PBTA. They have another E350. It's used, and certainly I wouldn't imagine that it would be around for the long haul because it has high mileage. But this is something that's going to be donated to the city. It's got a little bit over 100,000 miles, but it's E350, just like the one that was that's out of commission right now. And total wheelchair accessibility, wheelchair lift, and all of that. And it seems to only need some work done to the exhaust. Our mechanic went out to take a look at it. The downside with all of this is that I've been told I have to wait until August 4th for City Council to approve this gift being handed over to the city, which kind of places me in a weird position. Hold on one second, something just popped up on my screen. Sorry. Which puts me in a weird position because I'm gone. My last day is August 6th. So I'm going to, get everything prepped up. Sandra Sheehan, the director from the PBTA, will have all of the paperwork ready. So if City Council approves the gift being, being brought to the city, then we can hopefully make that a quick exchange. And Nicole had already told me that her office would carry out the rest of it if, some things should go beyond August 6th, which I'm assuming it will. But we do have that in the works. So I'm trying to make sure we secure that before I leave. So, but that was the biggest thing that's been happening right now, is we're down a van driver plus a van. And so we don't secure this pretty soon. I mean, we've been able to borrow, there's a Ford Transit passenger van that we've been using, but it's not wheelchair accessible. So, we're down to one wheelchair van, so that has to change. We got to get back to at least having 2 wheelchair vehicles, here on site. But yeah, so that's been fun dealing with that. But we're getting there. We're getting there.
Just for the record, I did reach out to a city councilor to see if there was any way they could expedite this approval. As you know, it's sort of part of the charter that city council has to approve any gifts to the city, and they just didn't feel it was possible to pull the councilors together for a meeting to approve a gift prior to August 4th, possibly because of vacations and others being away or what have you. So as Brendan said, we really have to wait till the 4th of August to get. I'm sure they'll approve it that night, but unfortunately, we have to wait till then.
Yeah, I don't see any resistance happening, but it just, when I kind of saw that and I knew the next time City Council was going to be meeting, my heart kind of sunk because I had been working on this, 3 weeks ago with the PBTA, just getting our mechanic to go out to their admin building and their garage to check out, the van. And, it's been back and forth communication. And so when I found that out from the auditor, and I get it, there's a process to this, but it's just the timing of it is kind of unfortunate. But I don't doubt in any way that City Council will turn that down, but does have to go through that process. So.
Yeah, it's just procedure. So we'll get there.
Yeah. And again, Nicole is ready to have Lindsay pick this up, in my absence or, until they can find a new director. But I have a feeling they'll probably secure the vehicle even before maybe even the new director comes in. So.
Okay.
All right. So. Oh, yes, this is it, by the way, if you guys didn't get a chance to look at it. This is very similar to the vehicle we had, maybe with the exception of the actual body, but it's almost the same identical vehicle. And again, the difference being here between this and what we had previously is that this will be 100% city owned. So the vehicle that was involved in the accident actually had PBTA plates on it. This will have our blue municipal plates on it. So. Okay. We may have to work on, taking care of the maroon there because that doesn't seem to match up with the rest of our vans. And I don't want anybody thinking they're going to be hopping on the PBTA Express when it's the council agent. But because we're right here conveniently, right next to the stop. So I'm sure the second we roll down onto our side street here, people are going to get ready to hop on. So the new director will probably have to work with DPW to figure out coloring of it. But I think the PBTA will end up stripping the logo, obviously, from the top because they don't want it's no longer theirs. Certainly, they don't want their agency name on a vehicle that doesn't belong to them.
Yep.
But yeah, the side panels there would definitely need to be worked on. Maybe we could slap a Easthampton city seal on it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so the next part is talking about transition. So certainly, my position was just posted yesterday. I was hoping that it would have gone out a little bit sooner than that, but nonetheless, it's posted. It's being shared with the Massachusetts Municipal Association. It's gone up on Indeed, and of course, it's on our city website. But I'm creating a document right now that at least, when someone comes into this position, they'll know what to expect. So as I've broken down, and certainly if there's things that you guys want to add as the board, I'll be happy to put it in. But I think, some of the most important items are giving a quick breakdown of the FY22 budget, talking about the fact that an RFP committee is going to be established. And Tom, I'm going to, mention that you're part of that RFP committee. A brief overview of the FY22 EOEA formula grant narrative. I've talked to Adam Frank from the Executive Office of Elder Affairs, and while some of this is still being finalized, we're again at $42,000 or $42,060. So that's what we're dealing with again. So there's been no loss. We've just essentially been level funded on that. But the great thing is about this is that I've, laid out the formula grant budget sheet, but should the new director come in and they find that they want to make modifications, I will explain the amendment process and who to contact if it's needed. Because while I'm creating this document, I realize that the new director may have completely different ideas about what they want to be doing with this money. And, I'm sure they'll probably be consulting with you guys, but this is just more or less to give them a heads up so they're not blindsided by, say, something like Sandra Sheehan from the PBTA saying, hey, your van's ready, or, you have to do this and, that. And so trying to create this so, again, someone's not coming in here completely clueless. Of course, we'll be talking about the senior tax work-off program and where I stand by the time I leave here. Title III grant money that I've put out for the home shopping delivery program. We probably won't know until September, but at least they can have an understanding as to what the program is and what it's supporting. But yeah, so those are the bigger picture items that I want to definitely bring to the attention of the new director. And then certainly daily operations. Now, one of the things that we've had to do, and this is something that I'm going to really emphasize in this document that will be for the new director, is that we've had to shift. With me leaving on August 6th, there's only one other full-time person here in this department. So we've had to shift schedules around. And again, I'm going to emphasize that this is temporary. The new director can... Oh, I'm sorry, what?
I think that was just background, Brendan.
Oh, okay. So, there's going to be things that the new director will have to decide. So, for example, with daily operations, we're leaving it Monday through Friday, 8 to 4 right now, because, doing the extended hours would require, having another full-time staff person here, that being the director. So we've had to take some of the part-time people and shift them so they're here for closing. And so September, we held off on the extended hours until potentially September. And that's up to the new director to decide as well, but it is something that people have expressed interest in. The extended hours normally had stuff like Zumba and ballroom dancing for folks. And I know that ballroom dancing and Zumba instructors have reached out to me, and they're really interested in getting things up and running again here. So that'll be a decision that the new director has to make, whether or not those extended hours will come back into play. And then other basic stuff, payroll services, weekly deposits, paying the bills. My concern is that if they don't find someone and it's, until September, that's a month worth of, bills or things that may build up. So I'm hoping, that the word will get out and we'll have, some solid applicants putting in. But I'll have everything to cover probably up until September or maybe even into October with, different vendors that we're working with to make sure that we have enough money to pay those individuals who are providing services at the center directly. But yeah, so this document is probably going to be, I don't know how many pages. I've just barely scratched the surface with daily operations, and it's kind of got 2 to 3 pages already. And again, this is just to serve as like, a informational thing. The director can, decide what they need to do going forward. But So I just wanted people to know that I'm not leaving this position without at least giving something to the new person, so that hopefully makes the transition a little bit easier for that individual.
Thanks for that, Brendan. Just so the board's aware too, the last time we hired, when we hired Brendan, the mayor's office through HR basically drove the bus, and they through the HR department, through personnel, and basically put together a small group of people that did the interviewing of the applicants. And that group included 2 board members. The mayor had basically contacted us and asked for 2 volunteers to sit on that interviewing committee, if you will, to interview for the new director. So don't know if that'll happen the same way. I hope it will, because I think there should be some board involvement in that process. But as soon as I find out what that process will be for interviewing, I'll reach out to see if there are 2 volunteers who would like to sit with HR personnel and whomever else to do the interviewing, to come up with a recommendation for a new director. And again, I'm only basing that off of what I know from the last time when we hired Brendan.
Yeah, and I can't speak to how that process plays out, because that was underneath Karen when Karen was the mayor. I would love for someone, at least maybe 1 or 2 members from the board, to participate in interviews. Obviously, you guys know this department and what its needs are. And, what I plan on doing is putting out the post, the Massachusetts Council on Aging, and also the Executive Office of Elder Affairs, that they do blast emails, and that post is also put up on their website. But yeah, so Tom, if you can follow up with the mayor's office, maybe just to see if they'll have involvement with the board, because I would like to think that that would be a natural thing. But I don't know, because my experience has been underneath Karen during that time period. And
Yep, I can definitely follow up. Okay,
great. Yeah, so if anybody has anything else that they want me to include that I think I might have missed, with creating this, document for the new director, please. Every time I think I've got most of what I'm going to put down, then there's something else that pops up. But I think the great thing is, and this is something that I had mentioned in the document, is that the staff that are here on board, whoever's coming into this position, is in good hands. I have wonderful employees who have gone above and beyond, and really have helped us get through COVID and figuring out what it looks like when we're in lockdown. And should we have to lock down again, we've got, staff here, 8 people, that have seen it and know what it looks like and can help guide the new director should that come up. And I really hope it doesn't, but it could be the reality of things. So, but they know what that looks like, and, I've just been very fortunate. I've been very fortunate to have people that I've had, here working for me. So I know I don't have to worry about that aspect of it.
Well, Brendan, thank you for your years of service. And I guess the only silver lining to this cloud is that you're only going down the street, and we know where you work and we know how to find you. So it's the good news for us.
Well, the other thing that I did too is, and they can choose not to, but I will leave an email just in case someone has a couple of questions. I will certainly leave that open for the new director, because I'm hoping it's going to be someone that has experience with working in elder services. I know that when I first applied for this position, there was someone who had a ton of talent and a lot of skills with doing administrative type stuff, managing budgets, working with grants, and all of that stuff is incredibly helpful, but at the same time didn't know about elder services. So there's a lot of connecting points, and Massachusetts Council on Aging, the EOEA, the people who to contact and how some of these grant systems work. So yeah, I really hope the candidate at least has had some background in elder services, because there's this part, but then there's also knowing what outreach does. And outreach is such a fundamental part to our department with securing public benefits. So I would really love to see someone who had a firm grip on what it means for someone who's struggling with Medicare costs or gaps in coverage, and how outreach plays a pivotal role in getting those people secured to avoid medical financial hardship and stuff like that. So I think there's that other part. Yes, you might be able to manage a department, but at a smaller scale, when we're dealing with our individual clients, outreach is doing really, really important work. And so hopefully that new director is had some type of experience with that.
Great.
So that's it on my end. And the other thing that I want to mention is I know that the board will be a major asset to the new director, and I can't thank you guys enough for being here to support me and kind of guiding me through that first year, because I came in at a weird time. There was a lot of stuff happening here at the center, and I learned a lot, for sure. And this has been a great experience, and I will take a lot of what I've learned here and as I'm going into my next chapter of my career. But I can't thank you guys enough for taking the time and serving and dedicating yourselves to the mission of the Council on Aging.
Thank you, Brendan, very much.
Thank you.
Anyone have anything else?
No, I wanted to thank Brandon as well. Thank you very much. It's been great getting to know you and working with you. I do have a really quick question. Like, where are we on the RFP? I'm just curious. I thought that they were open is that opening, or those all coming in later in this month, or I thought it was at the end of June?
Yeah, the RFP period, Pat, has actually closed.
Okay, that's what I thought.
And, to the best of my knowledge, CHD was the only respondent.
Okay.
So now I believe we're in the process of reviewing their proposal.
Okay.
And Michael Owens with the city is actually driving that bus. And
okay.
I just had a few questions that I threw at him. And it's just a process of them working out the details.
Okay, so
and those details include, I believe, Brendan, you were involved in some of the build out questions. So that review includes the way they've built out the site to accommodate the senior center. That was a little bit of confusion on my part, because originally I thought we were looking at the rental side of the building and not the hardware side of the building. But their RFP actually refers to front and back. So I have and I'm still waiting for clarification on that, Pat, but I think the COA might be the entire front of the building, both hardware and the old rental spot.
Oh, wow.
And CHD operating in what they refer to as the back, which is that small office and some back space there, but they are looking at giving us the entire amount of square footage that's needed, which is like 11,000 plus square feet.
Okay, great. That sounds good.
Yeah, no, I'm really, it's kind of a weird position to be in, because of course I'm leaving, but I really feel our folks deserve this. We've watched a lot of communities, create these wonderful centers where, the town or city takes a lot of pride in elder services, and it's nice to see that finally happening on our end, and hopefully everything is secured. That's something really exciting to be looking forward to as a new director, the possibility of securing this building and having a bigger space and one that's more modern and that can certainly meet the needs of our population.
Great.
Yeah, at the end of the day, other than the fact that it might still look like Manchester's, although I have to believe there'll be some facade improvements, but it's going to be all one floor. There's share parking with CHD, but there's 42 parking spaces there. I know the RFP talked about COA access from both Union Street and Chapman Avenue, so wow. The van could drive in and out from the back, I believe. Keeps us, on Union Street, a big presence in downtown, which I think is important. And I think the mayor, looking forward, saw that there was no real funding opportunities coming in the near future for new COAs. So, for example, with the new school, there was a state program that provided, 60% of the funding. She doesn't see any such funding opportunities coming forward for senior centers. So to Brendan's point, when you build out the inside of this the way you want it, it literally, once you walk through the door, is going to look like a brand new building with all the amenities of a brand new modern building. I think the days are gone when we're trying to squeeze senior centers into old post offices or old schools that are constrained by, concrete walls that you can't move.
Right.
This is going to be basically a build out that you can build to your needs.
Right.
So the one thing that I just wanted, I think it was Stan, I can't remember, there was an email at one point and someone had brought up, someone from the board, I think it was Stan, and I apologize if I'm wrong, but I think the thing to also be thinking about is, yes, new center, great, but that idea that you build it and they come, I think we're going to really start pulling in higher numbers because people naturally drift towards something that's brand new and shiny.
Yeah.
I think, it's going to be interesting to see, I think a lot of people, are kind of turned off from, I think this building worked for a period of time, but now as we're here in 2021, I think people are looking for something different. And again, you see places like Hadley, Northampton, Holyoke, these are, a lot of our folks tend to go in those directions because they see these beautiful buildings and the programs and services. So the thing to think about, and I know someone had mentioned this, is whether or not we have the adequate amount of staff and resources to handle that surge of people potentially coming in through the doors. So that's something to think about. So whoever had pointed that out, I think that is something to consider going into a new building for sure.
Okay, if there's nothing else, anything else from anyone? If there's nothing else, I would ask for a motion to adjourn. Joe made the motion. And who seconded? And Stan seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Brendan, could we stay on for just a second with Louise so I could update her on the first part of the meeting for the minutes?
Sure.
Great. Thank you all
Hey,
very
guys.
much.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
You too.
Later. Bye now.
So Louise, the meeting was called to order at 11:03. And the minutes, thank you very much again for the minutes. The minutes, motion to approve was Pat Bruff, and that was seconded by Pat Wojcik. And Brendan presented the financial report, which was approved. And Highland Valley did not have a report. They're on their summer break right now, so I don't believe they meet again until September for Highland Valley.
Okay, slow down. Call to order 11:03. I think it's like the rain outside, bad connection. Minutes approved. Pat seconded by.
No, Pat Ruff made the motion and Pat Wojcik seconded.
Right, getting it. Okay. Carry on.
And then Brendan presented the financial report. And
Yeah.
Highland Valley, they're on a summer break right now, so there's no meetings there till September. So Pat had nothing to report.
Great.
And then you came right on when Brendan was going over the senior tax work-off program and mentioned that there are 4 people placed. And I think you heard all the rest of that from that point on.
Okay. Oh, they were only talking about 4 people. Sorry, that's my personal. You're absolutely right. That's when I finally got connected and admitted to the Zoom room. So thank you very much.
All right. It should be updated.
Yeah. One question.
Yes.
And I think I will, and it's not this directly, but it was the worst time. I might not be able to attend the next meeting. And I had really hoped to be here in the beginning to ask for a volunteer to replace myself for personal reasons. I think I'll I'm going to send an email, I think, to everybody asking people to reply to me individually and hope there's only one volunteer. And if there's more than one, I don't know. I'll appeal to you as president. I mean, it shouldn't be a big deal. It just
Pick the first one. The first one that responds is the winner.
So to be honest with you, our next meeting is, well, your next meeting is on the 17th. I have a strong feeling that they're not going to have someone in by that time.
You mean to replace you?
Yeah.
Right. So we may not even have a need to meet Louise for that meeting.
I'm hoping I'm wrong. I really do. I really hope I'm wrong, but I would almost say that it's probably going to push past that.
I don't think the board has a need to meet without a director.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Sorry,
Yeah.
I thought we would have more need to meet, but
No, I
mean,
think without a director, it's pretty difficult. I think there'll be more need to meet once the new director starts to bring that person up to speed and sort of learn the ropes for both of us, both the board and the group. But yeah, that's a good point, Brendan. Why don't we not ask for volunteers at this point, Louise? And we'll know before the 17th. And if we have to, I mean, I've done it before with other groups I'm on. If we have to ask for a volunteer as the meeting is opening, that's perfectly okay. So I wouldn't worry about it being in place too far in advance.
absolutely agree. Okay, fine. I'm used to meetings at other places, but not too used to kind of the local customs here.
Yep.
I'm still getting to know this, but that sounds good.
If I had thought of that before we adjourned, Brendan, we could have actually agreed to skip the August meeting and have our next meeting in September. But
yeah, and that might be a good idea. I mean, so I'm looking at it right now. It's July 20th. It just went up yesterday. So you got to figure, I think it has to be up. It has to be posted for at least 14 days, I think. So then you've got someone, once they find someone who's going to be selected, they have to at least give 2 weeks typically for their employer. So I don't know. I mean, if they do find someone right away, I think they're going to be running right up against that board meeting. And I don't know if that's something that, I mean, you guys will figure that out, I guess, is to figure, whether or not it's worth throwing them into it if they do start just before the 17th. But I have a feeling just the timeline of it.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we, I don't think I need a board vote to cancel a meeting or not have a meeting. I think we can make an executive decision. So, Louise, when you send out the minutes, if you could just in that email, in the body of that email, make the announcement that we will not be having a meeting in August, since it's most likely that we will not have a new director in place. So our next meeting would be September 21st, if I'm looking at the right dates on the calendar. Our next meeting would be September 21st.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, well, I've got one question, Brendan. As long as we're here and if I got connected on time, I would have asked in the meeting, do you have is there a deputy, a person who, if not, I mean, I don't think you have there's a deputy director, is that big, but somebody who would take over on an interim basis your responsibilities? I mean.
Yeah, so I had raised concerns about, first and foremost, payroll, and then also, again, paying people that are coming in here to provide services for us. So there's one person that I've identified right now to at least help out with payroll as a temporary Band-Aid, if you will, because obviously I don't want people to stop getting paid. So I'm going to be training Dawn Gratian-Moore, our activity coordinator, to figure out how to at least run some of the basic services. That way there isn't this mess, that someone's walking into. But is there anything else in particular that you're thinking of, I mean, the group has collectively, we've all come together to figure out scheduling, and we're going to meet a couple more times in the absence of a director, because as I said, there's only 2 full-time people here. So we've had to do a lot of shifting around to cover closing and opening and all that stuff. But I think we've got it down for the most part. We've just got to fine tune a couple of things. But anything in particular you're wondering about?
Well, I have to assume, Louise, that the mayor has her arms wrapped around that as far as if there's a gap in leadership here, what happens. But I can run that by her when I reach out to ask about this committee that she's going to put together to do the interviews. I can ask about what she has in mind for any gap.
That sounds really good. One thing that came to my mind almost immediately was is that Brendan has made Brendan himself and his personal email has actually been the point of contact for a lot of the services, questions, and so forth. Rather than an info ad or I don't know, anything else. So that at the same time as it's reopening, for those who interact with the center when they do, not so much in person, and that's been me, other people. But there's obviously a lot more since COVID started. I mean,
Right.
We finally have the Facebook presence and a small one and blah, blah. So that's sort of filling that void, people knowing who to go to, even splashing a temporary. I'm a communications person, but that's one question. The other question is, where does the staff turn if something unanticipated or an emergency comes up during that month?
Yeah, I mean, so if it's anything, like say, for example, say this accident that happened in June happened like in, right? That would immediately go to the mayor's office. Anything, big emergency type stuff like that, would instantly, be in contact with the mayor's office about that. As far as financial stuff goes, Hadel and Anne-Marie from payroll can kind of help navigate, Don through payroll services and maybe even bill pay. However, I do get concerned that if we have someone paying the bills and doing payroll, I hope this wouldn't, I don't know how to say this. I'm hoping that it wouldn't slow down the process, I guess, of finding a candidate, because I feel like anything beyond September, someone stepping in here is going to really have to get moving, we just, but hopefully that's not going to be the case. I'm hoping that August, maybe mid to late August, they'll find someone to plug in. But because I'm a department head, I'd like to think, or because it's a department head position, I'd like to think that they're going to work really hard. But I don't want anybody to become complacent with something that's temporary.
Right.
That is a concern. Because we've seen it in other positions where there was one department that went a few months without having. And this is like a really important role, but went a few months without having it filled. And so a lot of the work fell onto, this one person. And so I would feel horrible if that happened. And so that's why part of me thinks, really hoping that the process is expedited and that they, find someone quickly.
I'll see what I can find out when I contact the mayor, and I will update the group on that.
Yeah.
Sounds great. And actually, I share your concerns, given the past history of Pace and Ave. Totally. I mean, Brendan, you and I have the same point there. Tom, maybe you can just sort of nudge them, let them know that there's concern, let them know this is seniors in the middle of a pandemic, and kind of, I don't know if it's still recording, but it's important, and it's important that they get a push. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think, Tom, obviously you have solid communications with the mayor's office, and I think if you express that concern, they're not going to take it lightly. They're going to,
right.
It's one thing, and that's the thing. When this first came up, the second I knew that it was happening, I informed the mayor's office on July 1st, and then had my resignation letter out to her office, and then also personnel, because I wanted to go up as soon as possible. You know, I didn't want it to be, I mean, it did get up yesterday, but you know, there was at least a couple of weeks there where,
Right.
but anyway, yeah.
Okay, I will do that. I'll follow up and I will let the group know. And again, Louise, if you can include in your minutes, as an intro, if you will, that it's most likely that the new director won't be appointed by our next meeting. So we would not have an August meeting, and our next meeting would be September 21st.
Yeah, got it. Yeah,
Okay, thank you all.
it's like that.
All right.
Thanks, Brendan.
Yeah, thank you guys.
See you at 1 o'clock.
Yes, 1 o'clock it is.